Okay. That didn't work. No. Yeah. Okay, great. I didn't want to start on this slide. Dang it. How do I get out of this? This. Cool. Awesome. Okay. So basically, like I said earlier, I'm trying to get your guys' questions answered from last week's meeting about several topics. The first one we're going to talk about is diversity. This is a diversity video made by the Chancellor's Diversity Initiative. So we're going to quickly watch that. For those of you guys who don't know what diversity is, hopefully all of you guys do, but just to give you guys some background knowledge. Does it work like that? No, it doesn't work like that. Okay, well then I already have it pulled up. Haha.
And we are actively engaged with diversity and embrace our rich demographic tapestry using these values as our guide. Respect.
Respect for oneself and for others is the foundation of honor and the basis of integrity.
Responsibility.
A sense of responsibility requires careful reflection of one's moral obligations.
Discovery.
Discovery often fractures existing worldviews and requires acceptance of uncertainty and ambiguity.
Excellence.
We aspire to an excellence which is approached through diligent effort, both individual and collective. We use these values every day to guide us as teachers, students, scholars, and members of this diverse academic community.
I think diversity at Mizzou has really given me a great foundation for my education here.
Today, when we talk about diversity, we're talking about a variety of diversity. We're talking about diversity of religious beliefs, diversity of political values, diversity of race, diversity of sexual orientation.
It's about gender, it's about size of town, where you grew up.
And it's, people who have different interests and people who like different things, like different music than you do. And it's also people who come from different backgrounds and maybe some people you didn't see a lot growing up.
Back home, my original hometown, there was no minority, no ethnicity. There was no African Americans, no Latinos, nothing of that sort.
Oftentimes I have students who, for their first time, are meeting an authority figure who is from two groups, a woman and minority. And I think diversity helps open their minds, helps to help them understand who I am, and at the same time it helps me to understand who they are.
The misconception I had about diversity coming in is that, as a minority, that I would be providing the diversity, so to speak. And I think the great thing about my time in Mizzou has been that diversity is something to be experienced, whatever your background is.
I think what's been really neat about Mizzou is that you find diversity everywhere in your student organizations, within your residence halls. I've been a part of several multicultural organizations on campus, and I think that's really allowed me to express not only my cultural heritage, but also the cultural heritage of the people in those organizations to different students on campus.
Sometimes people think when we talk about diversity, it means that I have to give up the beliefs or the values that I hold or that they hold. That's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is, I think, going back to a time where we're willing to listen to the other person without saying that they're wrong.
Part of, I think, what we have to teach students is how to disagree in a civil manner. And I think that's step number one.
Inside the classroom, I've been a part of a lot of Socratic seminars, especially in the Honors College, and so it's really nice when you have to talk about different things. People don't have the same perspectives as I do, and so I get to learn a bunch of different ideas because I don't think like they do, and so it helps me become more well-rounded.
There's a really active student energy associated with looking at things from a multitude of perspectives. I find that very refreshing, very fruitful for a learning environment and for a research environment. I think what you gain from diversity is that you grow as an individual, and through learning from other people, you learn more about yourself.
I think it's important when students come in that they appreciate the fact that this is a university campus, and we have certain expectations. And one of the expectations is that we allow people to be different than we are, and that we do this with a great amount of respect for those differences, and that we value them. I think it's very important.
One drop, y'all. One drop, y'all. One drop, y'all. We our people. Let's get Asia.
Okay, and they have like a music thing for like a whole another minute. But anyway, so that that kind of gives you guys a gist of diversity here on campus. And I am going to put this video on shift planning. It's kind of outdated, just a PS, the Adrienne Hoffman, the African-American woman, the junior, she actually hired Tucker, Emily, and I. So, fun fact. So, she's an old tour guide that's in that video. Anyway, like I said, I'll put this video up so you guys can watch a little bit more. The reason I showed it is because I really liked some of the ways that they presented diversity, the way that they talked about it on campus. I think that gives you guys a real good, like, blanket way if someone asks you stuff about Speaker Circle or, you know, even if they just are generally talking about other groups on campus, and be like, you know, we allow this because we foster this diverse development here on campus. So, watch the video again if you want to. You don't have to. But like I said, I think it gives a really great base knowledge for all that stuff. Okay, so how do we study and teach diversity here on campus? Well, we do have a couple of different initiatives. So the first one I kind of want to talk about is the Chancellor's Diversity Initiative. And just an FYI, these aren't all of the programs, or it's not even close to all the programs that we have here on campus. But I did kind of pull just like the bigger ones that you guys can talk about that you might be able to include on tour just along your normal route. So the first one is the Chancellor's Diversity Initiative. It's the office that's actually located in the 3rd floor of Memorial Union. So if you're talking about Memorial Union and you want to bring up diversity there, you can definitely do it. And it's basically a group of faculty and students that kind of work to increase diversity within the workplace and within the school environment. They also do a lot of programs to evaluate campus climate. So when we talk about race relations, when we talk about sexual assault and stuff like that, we are talking about those people who are looking at those campus climate issues within the classroom and outside of the classroom. The Chancellor's Diversity Initiative also assesses any biases that happen on campus. So when we talk about the ability to report a bias, the Chancellor's Diversity Initiative kind of goes through those biases, evaluates them, and kind of gets to the core root of what's happening. So like I said, they're a really great program here on campus, and they've been here for a while. And they have been working to become larger and better, but that's definitely something that you guys can bring up on tour. They do the Guide to Religion, which is something that I pointed out. I put a link there so you guys can see all of the programs that they have. And if you guys don't know what the Guide to Religion is, this is a great one to bring up, especially since a lot of people identify, with a certain type of religion or, identity. And so basically, the Guide to Religion is this whole booklet that lists out all of the religions that the university kind of sees as, I hate to say accepted excuses for things, but like these are the major religions on campus. Like they look at the people coming in, they say, okay, we have a good sector of students who identify this way that could be affected by a test or a campus program. And so all of the professors, all the departments get these guide to religions, and they're supposed to look at them before they structure all their exams and structure anything like that. So if someone's wondering, I have to go home for something, for some holiday because it's my religion, you can say, look at the Guide to Religion, see if it's listed on there, because there's a good chance it is. If you guys haven't looked at it, go check it out. There's a ton of religions in there, and they list all the holidays that are excusable. So it's a great way, again, that we try to include all of those different identities on campus. The last one on there is the open forums for students. So we have like diversity peer educators on campus. If you guys don't know what that is, that's through the Multicultural Center. Hopefully you guys learned a little bit about that while you were in the basement / have taken a diversity peer educator course. Basically, they have already preset programs that they do for organizations and groups here on campus, but they also can customize it to what your organization needs. So let's say, and I hate to throw my chapter under the bus, but my chapter struggles with I guess, cultural identities, not recognizing cultural identities, and so that's something that our chapter can bring in is, talk to the Multicultural Center, talk to the diversity peer educators and say, hey, this is what we're struggling with. Can you come in and bring a program that addresses these issues so that our members can be better? And again, they do big forums, they do small forums. I think they also have this whole whole identity week that they do, where they put on different programs as well. So they're very active in the community, and they're a great resource for students because they're free for all the organizations, and any student can request a program. So if you wanted to get like a group of your friends together to do it, that's something that you could do. And then the forums for students that I wanted to talk about were just similar. Did anyone go to the Race Relations Forum? Am I the only one? Okay, well, I went. And basically, especially with the recent, you guys know the campus climate recently with sexual assault and race issues here on campus, higher administration has been trying to do these forums. Now, we all may have our personal opinions about the forums. I know I do. However, this is, again, a great way to say that the student voices are heard on campus because, you know, we can't deny that. They are given a place where they can speak about their opinions, speak about the issues here on campus. So the race relations one is a great one to talk about. There was a sexual assault one a couple weeks back, a month and a half back, something like that. And they kind of continue on throughout the year. What's up?
How often are those?
Are the forums? They kind of just come up as needed. I know that, if I remember correctly from yesterday, I think we've had 6 since this school year started. But I'm not sure if there's like a set number that they try to do. I do know that they do come up as, like, for example, this forum yesterday was like just kind of brought up 2 weeks ago and just kind of turned around real fast. So sometimes they're pre-planned, sometimes they're not. And also depending on the group, so it could be, so this is a higher administration forum, but also like MSA does forums as well. Smaller groups do forums as well. So we have a lot of different levels of places where students can go to express their opinions, talk about issues. What's up?
What happens in these forums?
So, okay, that's a great question. What happens at a forum? So if you guys haven't been to a higher administration forum, usually what happens is at the beginning, there's a couple of administrators that kind of address the issue that we're talking about within that forum. So for example, yesterday it's a race relation issue. And the reason that forum was brought up was, if you guys haven't heard about the Sniper movie and the disagreements going on with showing that movie on campus, a student was personally attacked by media sources, Fox and CNN, and the university hasn't done anything about it. So this forum was to create a conversation about the movie itself, and then also the March on Greektown by MU for Mike Brown. So they start off by kind of addressing all of that, and then they have students, they have 2 mics usually, or a couple of mics, and students can line up and start, you know, basically either addressing opinions that they have directed toward the administrators, a specific administrator, or ask questions that they have regarding the topic at hand.
Does there have to be a problem in place before these happen, or are these like preventative measures?
If you want my honest,
Sure.
yes, okay. The university has been very reactive lately. That is just the honest truth and fact. If someone asks you that on tour, I would hate to say lie to them, because I don't want you to say like, oh, like we do them all the time, because, you know, like Gabriel asked, like how many do we have? They're not structured, and I would say they are pretty reactive. I wish that was different. I wish that we did have them set in place, at least the higher administrative ones. However, what you can say is be like, yeah, we do have certain ones that are set in place. So for example, MSA ones are already kind of like pre-planned. They usually like bring them up, you know, a month in advance, like, hey, we're just gonna have this forum to discuss issues. The panel, for Greek Life, if you talk about Greek Life, Panhellenic has one every month, the first Thursday of every month. You can go in and have, talk about whatever issues you have with the Greek community in that open forum, if that makes sense. Is that okay? Is that a good enough answer? Okay. What's up?
Doesn't MSA cabinet also have cabinet, like Coco, cabinet, Coco?
Yeah, Coco with cabinet. Yeah, they did that in December. I don't know if they're doing that again. They did that a couple of times last semester. And I think, and you guys all know Peyton, he's a tour guide. He's a great person to go to ask questions about MSA. He's a little busy, but you can always shoot him an email, his personal email, especially since you guys are tour guide, and be like, hey, like I'm a new tour guide and I have questions about, you know, diversity issues or diversity initiatives that MSA is doing, just so I can bring them up on tour. I'm sure he'd be happy to shoot you guys an email. But yes, they do have those more casual forums as well, so you could talk to an MSA cabinet member one-on-one. Great questions. Any others before we move on? No? Okay, so those were just a couple of things that I wanted to mention about like teaching diversity. And then for celebrating diversity, As you guys all know, we bring a ton of speakers on campus, we have a ton of events, and we have a ton of groups. And again, I'm not going to go through every single thing because that's a whole lot, and so I've listed these links on here. So when you guys go back to the PowerPoints, you can click on them, get a couple of examples, really try to understand this stuff a little bit more subjectively, if I can say that. So for speakers, I like to say that whenever I'm talking about it, that we bring a lot of outside speakers to educate our students on different aspects of diversity. We have cultural speakers, we have identity speakers, we have ability speakers. So for Celebrate Ability Week, I can't remember his name on the top of my head, but a couple of years ago, I think my sophomore year, we brought that guy who was in a mountain and he fell and he had to saw off his own arm. Does anyone remember that? It's like a book. Can't remember his name. If anyone knows it. Yes, that one. Do you know his name? Aaron Roston? Okay. But yeah, so someone like him came to campus to talk about ability and celebrating the ability to do stuff, even though technically he's labeled as having a disability, if that makes sense. People like the late and great Maya Angelou, came to talk about cultural and diversity issues on campus, and she spoke and she did poetry. She talked about women's empowerment. So things like that, you can bring those up on tour, and those are great ways to include and talk about diversity while you're on your route. Events, so we have obviously those bigger events. So like in February, we celebrated Black History Month. Tons of things happen in Black History Month. So go look, type in Black History Month Mizzou on Google and look at all the events that happened. It's great stuff to bring up on tour. And the best part, what I like to say about this type of stuff when you're talking about diversity on tour is to talk about something that you've experienced. So like talking about going to the Asian American Association fair. That's a really, really great way to be like, hey, we do have these things. That's an event that we have on campus. And I actually went, and it was really cool. I got to learn this, this, and this about the people who identify as Asians here on campus. Very interesting. So I always say, try to do something that you guys have experienced just because it brings more to the tour, obviously. But if you haven't experienced it, that's okay. You can still bring it up. You can still say, hey, I know that this person came to campus to speak. I know that this happens on campus. For example, this month is Women's History Month. Thank you. It's Women's History Month. So if you guys haven't, go to a Women's History Month event because they're great. And that's a great way to bring stuff up on tour. Again, looking at, like the video said, there's tons of different ways to describe diversity. So looking at the ways that maybe you haven't quite connected with, or maybe you don't identify with yourself, and learning about those things, because you can always talk about your own, you can always talk about you as a diverse person, but it's cool to be able to explain that to other people and also explain how a person who doesn't identify like you is successful on campus. Does that make sense? Cool. Any questions about those things? Great. Okay. So, Greek life. We're switching subjects here. Okay, first things first. You can read that, but basically, you are always disaffiliated on tour. Now, I say that it goes for Panhellenic, Interfraternal, National Panhellenic, and really any if you have Greek letters, you're disaffiliated. Does that make sense? No? What's your question?
If someone asks you on tour what chapter are you in?
You say, I'm disaffiliated. You say, sorry, I'm disaffiliated. I can't tell you because I'm a representative of the university. And if they keep pondering you about it, be like, I'm really sorry. I can't tell you. I'm a representative of the university. And they really bug you about it, just kick them off your tour because that's rude. So, just kidding. Don't kick them off your tour. But, that's what I said. So, first things first, you are disaffiliated. Remember that as a representative, you make a huge impact on these students. What was the number that Patrick threw out? 80% of students say that their visit is the most important part of their college decision. So, you guys have a huge impact. And if anyone decides to go through some sort of recruitment later in the future, you don't want to be the reason why they're swayed one way or another for a specific chapter or group. Just because that's not fair. Does that make sense? So again, you want to take your personal bias out of it. And also on the flip side, let's say they already have a personal bias about your specific chapter that's maybe negative. That could deter them from coming to the university. So again, as recruiters, as ambassadors, you do have to be disaffiliated. And I cannot stress that enough. I know a lot of times older guides will wear their bracelets with their letters on them or their necklaces and just tuck it in. I say take it off, leave it at home, put it in your backpack. It's better to be safe rather than sorry. Cool? Awesome. Secondly, as far as Greek life goes, this is just the rule. Even if you are Greek, hand off any Greek life questions to the Greek life office. Basic questions like when is recruitment, fine, answer those. But if they start getting real detailed, like just hand them off. The reason why we don't go through a lot of Greek life training is because Greek life is constantly changing. And if you guys didn't know, right now they don't have 2 staff members. It's all basically graduate assistants and Jana. And Jana Bassler is the head of Greek life. So they're going through a lot of changes, and it's just very, very hard to keep up with their office. So I always say, just send the questions their way. That way you can't mess up. And then also, Greek life is weird about the way questions are answered and how they're dealt with. So again, just kind of pass them off. Does that make sense? What's up?
That's in CSI, right?
That is in the CSI. Yes, great question. So it's right above the Mizzou store. The Mizzou store. So just send them up there. And it's that first entrance on that east end of the student center. Great. Everyone knows where that is? Cool. Okay, moving on. So there are 3 Greek life councils: the National Panhellenic Council, the Panhellenic Council, and the Interfraternal Council. NPHC, PHA, IFC. If you ever mention Greek life, and you're talking about the Greek life office, make sure you mention all 3. Do not leave out 1, do not leave out 2. Just because you have an all Caucasian male tour does not mean that they want to join Interfraternal. That could mean they might be interested in National Panhellenic. You don't know that. So be sure to keep that in mind, is that you cannot judge someone's what they want just by the way they look. So again, if you're going to mention it at all, mention all 3, no matter what.
Can you explain the differences?
Yes, of course. Thank you. That's a great question. I forget that people don't know as much as I do. So National Panhellenic is the historically African-American fraternities and sororities. And I'm going to go into each one a little bit more. But the Panhellenic is kind of the... God, there's never a good way to describe this. It's like the Greek town sororities. Does that make sense? So the predominantly Caucasian sororities. Yes. And then interfraternal is a predominantly Caucasian fraternities. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And again, I hate to say predominantly Caucasian. I know that's very problematic, but that's a better way to describe it than other ways. So, all right, cool.
Are you going more in depth into that?
Yes, I will go more in depth. Yeah. And just to keep in mind, all of them are very different, so I am going to go into them. A lot of people have this misconception that PHA and IFC are very similar, and NPHC is this whole other thing. I guess you could argue that, but they all 3 have different bylaws, they have different rules, they have different structures, so they're not similar. So someone asks you, what are the differences? You could say, well, they're all very different, so go to the Greek life office. That's a great way to pass it off. All right, NPHC. So if someone asks about NPHC, remember it is the historically African-American fraternities and sororities. If they are interested in recruitment, the way the NPHC chapters do recruitment on the University of Missouri's campus is they have to reach out to the individual chapters on their own. A potential prospective member has to have at least 12 to 24 credit hours under their belt. So they usually have to be a sophomore at least, or second semester freshman. But normally it's usually a sophomore standing. So they contact the chapter themselves, and they kind of have to go to events that the chapter is holding, really integrate themselves into the chapter, and then they go through a process. If they're offered a bid, they go through a process where they're what's it called? Not disaffiliated. Someone help me with this word. When you're in secret society and you can't tell anybody, you guys know what I'm saying? Okay, anyway, I don't know the word. Yeah, it's kind of like you just can't tell anyone. Anyway, so they go through this process before they are revealed, and the reveal of the new members for a specific sorority or fraternity is through a probate. So that's kind of the general, again, a very general explanation. If you get any questions outside of that, hand them off to Greek Life. Currently, as of the Greek Life website, and the Greek Life website could be completely wrong, so just let me know if I'm wrong here. 7 out of the 9 Divine 9 chapters are on campus, have members that are on campus and are active. So you can see the Greek Life website. Yes, what's up?
You said they need 24 hours to be considered, right?
Like 12 to 24 credit hours, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that like on-campus hours?
Yeah, as far as I understood, it's on-campus credit hours. Yeah, on-campus credit hours. Mm-hmm.
So are these the traditionally African-American?
Yeah, historically African-American fraternities and sororities.
So people of other races can now join them, or is it just?
People of other races can join them. A great example of this is Sean Joy. If you guys don't know him, he worked at the Student Union's desk. He is a Caucasian man, and he joined Alpha Phi Alpha he joined the graduate chapter. So people of all ethnicities are more than welcome to join an NPHC chapter. It is historically African American, not exclusively African American.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Great question. What's up?
Kind of flip side, I mean, I guess there's like no weird guesses, but like you could also present an argument, like you could, as a tour guide, I could say the same thing for PHA and IFC, right? Like you could say it is historically Caucasian, although.
You could, yeah.
How do you kind of handle that side of it?
That's tough. So if a person who is not Caucasian comes up to you and says, hey, what are my chances of getting into a Panhellenic sorority? Is that what you're asking?
Kind of.
I would say that's a question to just hand off to the Greek Life office. I don't think that's something that you should handle yourself, only because that gets into a lot of tricky wording, and there's a good chance that you could say something that could offend that person / misrepresent that Greek Life office. Does that make sense? That's a tough question to ask, but you could. I mean, I guess you could, because Panhellenic and interfraternal councils are predominantly Caucasian. So, okay, I saw this hand first and then this hand.
The only thing is, I really want to be careful just because everything that's gone down in Alabama and their fraternity, I was like, I don't know, that just scares me. Just be careful what you say about it, and then maybe you can say, honestly, PHC or PHA. Anyway, their recruitment process is totally different, and they like having people from all different backgrounds, because different backgrounds and different like involvement backgrounds.
Right. And I think that's a good point. Again, if you have a question that's uncomfortable like that, again, just hand it off to the Greek Life office. Because you can always say, our campus is diverse. I'm not going to speak for the Greek Life office. And you could say, but the Greek Life office can further answer your questions and give you more feedback on what you're asking for. Does that make sense? Because I really don't. Again, second rule, always hand it off to them. Okay?
Unless that's like a super,
I don't think I've even gotten that question, and I've been on here for 4 years, so it may or may not happen, but that's a good thing to keep in mind. What else? Is that it? Okay. All right, so PHA. Again, Panhellenic Council. So the Panhellenic Council has a form, if anyone's interested, they have a formal recruitment process in the fall, the first week before school starts. So if school starts on the 18th, recruitment starts on the 11th, if that makes sense. So a whole week before. And basically, they move in a day early. They have these Kai groups, which are Panhellenic counselors, that take them through the week of recruitment. If you sign up for recruitment, it is not a for sure sign up to get in a chapter. That's something that you should, if someone asks, like, oh, if I sign up, am I going to get in a chapter? If you sign up, you can go through recruitment. You getting in a chapter is up to you and the chapters on campus. It's a mutual selection process. So mutual selection process is a great word to use, kind of informing them that whatever they choose, whatever the chapter chooses, kind of represent a 50-50 balance of the outcome of that student getting into a chapter. We also have informal recruitment. Now, the reason I say informal and not COB is because the proper terminology is informal recruitment. The Greek Life office does not want to use continuous open bidding. And that's just something to keep in mind. COB is not terminology that we're using anymore. So if someone asks you about COB, say, oh, well, it's called informal recruitment, and it happens throughout the year for certain chapters. The chapters can opt to do it, the chapters do not have to do it. It just depends on the chapter, and those chapters fluctuate every single year. So don't ever say that, like, oh, well, this chapter always has informal recruitment, and this chapter never does, because that's not true. So, what's up?
This may be sort of irrelevant, but
why don't they call it COBing? COBing has a very, very negative connotation to it. It is, and the reason so background story, you guys know Lily Krause, the tour guide? She was the recruitment chair for the Panhellenic Executive Board that I was on last year. And so the reason we changed it from continuous open bidding was, again, because of that negative connotation and the fact that it's not uniform with the rest of the nation. The rest of the nation uses informal recruitment, whereas we're one of the few schools that still use COB. And again, that has a very negative connotation and can get misrepresentation within the community, if that makes sense. Any other questions? Okay, cool. Panhellenic has 15 full chapters and 1 affiliate chapter. Again, you can go to the Greek Life website to look all those up. The affiliate chapter is SAE Pi. Yes, SAE Pi. Am I saying that right? Yes, SAE Pi. They are the Jewish sorority on campus. That's how they identify as. So that is the affiliate chapter. If anyone is like, what is the affiliate chapter? It's just smaller, kind of more religious sorority on campus. But
Is Delta Zeta coming? Because I know a lot of people said that, and then obviously they haven't changed the number.
if Panhellenic hasn't released it, then it's not true.
Okay.
Yep. If Panhellenic hasn't released it, it's not true. So again, if someone asks about Delta Zeta, say, you know what, I'm not sure. Go to the Greek Life office. Again, I'm going to keep reiterating this because Greek Life is ever changing. To answer your question a little bit further, the process to get a sorority on campus is like a lot more complicated than a process to get a fraternity on campus. A fraternity literally just has to create a group of men and like get a form filled out and like pass like one evaluation, and there's a fraternity. A Panhellenic sorority on campus has like 3 years of like voting processes that happen. And there's pros and cons to both. You guys don't need to know that stuff. I'm just giving you some background information. But yeah, so unless Greek Life puts it out there on the media, it's not true. Great. Any questions about Panhellenic? Cool. All right. Intrafraternal. So IFC. IFC has formal recruitment in the summer, usually July. Someone correct me if I'm wrong on that. It's usually July, right?
Yeah,
okay. It's in the summer welcome, right? Towards the end of summer welcome?
During
those weeks. Okay. What's up?
Go along those lines. If someone's asking you about IFC, then you might want to tell them that if they want to go through the formal or informal recruitment process for IFC, that they want to look at summer welcome dates and those dates. So they decide for someone to do that at the same time.
And that's a great question. The kind of transition into what I was going to say. So with formal recruitment, like I said, it's usually in the end of July. And so when people are looking to sign up for recruitment, those dates, the recruitment dates for interfraternal recruitment get released at different times. Last year they released them, I can't even remember when Brendan released them. You can ask Brendan, but it was a little bit, I think it was probably like March or something like that. So anyway, they have to sign up online just like Panhellenic recruitment, and they come in and go through like 3 or 4 days, 3 days of informal recruitment, or formal recruitment, formal recruitment. And they also have, similar to Panhellenic, they have like little groups, and those are Rho Gammas, so they kind of, I guess, walk around and monitor the incoming students while they're going through formal recruitment. For IFC recruitment, again, pass off those questions to Greek Life. It does, like Panhellenic recruitment, it changes on a year-to-year basis, so it's always good to just pass those questions off, because if parents are like, well, what are they going to be doing? It could change. We don't know, so pass that question off to Greek Life. But yeah, again, that's the basis of formal recruitment for IFC. What's up?
Just one thing to note is that formal recruitment is not as big of a requirement.
I'm going to go into that with informal.
I don't want to say HA is required, but
yeah.
IFC definitely is.
Yeah, so, and that's something, again, it transitions into my next thing. IFC has ongoing informal recruitment throughout the year on a chapter-by-chapter basis. Usually, IFC's informal recruitment is a lot more broad spectrum, so it kind of goes through a lot more chapters than Panhellenic informal recruitment. That doesn't mean it's always going to be true. There just happens to be more IFC chapters than Panhellenic chapters. But that is a good point that Justin made, that informal recruitment is a, I don't want to say more viable option, but it does happen to be on a broader spectrum for the IFC chapter. So if someone says, but I don't want to go through formal recruitment, say, that's okay. You don't have to. There is a very broad, wide range of informal recruitment for IFC.
What's the percentage of people that agree?
25 to 30. It's like 27 point something.
And how many IFC fraternities are there?
Something in 30s. Again, you don't need to know these numbers. IFC is like always adding and dropping and adding and dropping, and I can never keep up with it. I always say around 30 for IFC. Because it just depends on the year, really. Cool. Any questions about IFC? Again, the link is on there, so you can look at it. boom, boom. Okay. Oh, what's up?
Oh, I just wanted to Jim got a question on this tour about music Greek chapters that we also have on campus. So we have.
You want to stand up and say it?
Yeah.
Go ahead, stand up. I appreciate this.
So there are also, besides those, there are also music Greek chapters. That's something we're interested in. So there's a music fraternity which is Phi Alpha Symphonia. That's like an actual fraternity, so it's just guys. Then we also have Kappa Gamma. Kappa Psi, Tau Beta, and SAE. Because I know Jim got asked about SAE yesterday.
Is it SAE?
Yeah. That's interesting.
Also, there's also, or sorry, there's another one too. Yeah, anyway, you can look those up. Those are also,
Yeah.
also exist. There are four.
That's a great point, and I'll actually add those to the Greek life slides, and I'm sorry I didn't do that before. But I'll go ahead and add like the multicultural Greek chapters. I'll add information about the honors Greek chapters, the musical Greek chapters, and any other alternative Greek chapter that I can find on the org website. So I will put all that information on there for you guys. That's a good point. Thank you for bringing that up, Christopher.
Yeah, when I was talking to you about the multicultural Greek chapters and everything, from what I understand, next semester they're going to actually make that a full council.
Yeah, there's talk about that again until that gets released. That's like what's a good rule for tour team as well. When you're giving tours, unless it's in the media, don't say it. And don't say it's true, don't say it's happening, because that raises a lot of questions, concerns, and then it's like, oh God, now who do I send them to? Because I actually have no idea what I'm talking about. So again, unless it's not in the media, even if you have personal knowledge on it, which you guys will start getting a lot of personal knowledge just because of all the connections they're going to make on campus, still keep it on the DL until it's released by Mizzou themselves, okay? Cool. So John was supposed to do the alumni slides, and I don't know where he is, so I will try and do this on my own, and he said he's running late. I don't know. Okay. So, Alumni Association. Those of you on the alumni, AASB and stuff, if you guys want to chime in whenever I make a mistake, let me know. Is he here? Oh, thank you. John, alumni slides. Yeah, perfect.
Sorry. We ran a little long.
No, you're fine. I just didn't. I was like, oh my god, I'm John Giving all lose.
Perfect timing.
Great. Okay, hey, John's here.
Hey, alumni stuff. So has anyone like shadowed a tour or anything with like alumni on it yet? Given a tour? Some of you, cool. They can be really fun. They can also be not so fun. We'll talk about that a bit at the end. Basically, we have an alumni association. It is really important to talk about on tour. You can really talk about it when you're walking by Rack in that awkward spot coming off the quad around Jesse. Really great place to talk about it. You can talk about the shack there and also the alumni center, all the cool stuff that happens. There's the mission statement. Not going to read it. Sorry. You guys can read. The link, I really would recommend just going on the alumni website and kind of looking through all of that. It is really interesting. Alumni funds, so this is everything that like the money the alumni gives to the school gets you, and you can talk about on tour. I mean,
Talk about WSB too.
okay, cool. I mean, so yeah, you get a wall calendar. Wait, privileges of alumni. Oh, this is for alumni members. Just kidding. Yeah, is it?
This is like, no, this is alumni.
Okay,
So
that's
when
what I
you-
thought. Yeah, so this is like if you are an alumni, like once you graduate and like pay to be an alum.
So this is like alumni relations. So if
Yeah.
someone, is asking about like alumni stuff, if someone's like asking about the alumni center, you can just say, oh, like this is how, this is what alumni get. These are the
Yeah.
perks of being an alumnus of Mizzou.
Words, yeah,
Alumna,
I don't know.
alumnus, I don't know.
But yeah, so I mean, alumni obviously be super nice to them. They can be really great to have on tour. They can be a great supplement. I know I evaluated Cat's tour today, and we had 3 alumni on the tour, and they were great. They were awesome. They were, giving stories, but sometimes you do have alumni that are, oh, well, that's wrong. This is actually how it is, and will kind of tell you you're wrong, which can be a little frustrating. Just be calm, kind of just be like, oh, that may have been how it was when you were here, but things have changed a little bit. Just don't ever be rude to an alumni, because they do mean well. They're just really excited to be back on campus. Here's all the fun stuff they get when they are a member. You should all be members. And you can also talk about AASB, which is the Alumni Association Student Board. That is like the student side of the Alumni Association. They run True Tigers, which is a great program that's kind of being rebranded and things like that. So all of those things you can talk to alumni about. And if they have questions about where their money goes to, it's down there. So it's the Mizzou Magazine, Homecoming, which every alumni loves. So if they know their money's going to that, that's going to make them very happy. Scholarships, that's a big thing you can talk to them and to students. So a lot of the money alumni give does go to scholarships that current students get as well, which is exciting. A lot of local chapters will have their own like personal scholarships they award to students from that area. I'm sure some of you in here probably have some of those, which is cool. Again, their money goes to reunions, faculty grants. So their money goes to a lot of stuff that kind of helps the university run, which people love hearing their money is being used for good things. So make sure to talk that up if you do have someone asking you about those things. But alumni are great. I know sometimes they're frustrating, but don't ever like be mean to an alumni, because sometimes they're paying for you to go to school. Any questions?
Cool. Thank you, John. All right. So Ellis Library. Great. So these are a couple websites I put up. I call them nerd status websites because it's literally the entire history of all the libraries on campus. So if you ever want to learn about books and knowledge and the libraries, that you can go do that on the archives. But like I said, go ahead, look at those on your own time. But one thing to say about Ellis Library, it is one of the largest research libraries in the state of Missouri. That's super cool. We have over 3 million volumes of books, like something like 23,000 microforms. I don't know what they are, but the Ellis Library person always tells us to talk about it. So again, the link right here, this third link, actually has a place where you can go look up all those things. So look them up. Fun stuff to talk about. What's that?
Just, I've heard some of these on tour. Again, it's the largest public research library in the state, not the nation, and also it's the largest public library, not private. The largest private one is at WashU. So just a couple things, because I said I used to say it was the largest in the nation too.
I'll put public on here. Public.
Someone called me out on tour, and that was really embarrassing. So like, for one of you mouse, that way someone on your would be like, you're very done.
So facts, just follow the PowerPoint. Pretty great. All right, guys, moving on. All right, resources. So I'm going to kind of go over all these resources that we have here at Ellis Library. So we have a ton of databases. I tried to find the number of databases, but the person on the phone didn't know, and the internet was too hard to count all of them. So, but there were over 100. I got to 100, and there were still 10 more. So there are over 100 databases covering over 50 different subjects, including wine. If you guys didn't know that, we have databases on wine here at our Ellis Library. And as a student, your tuition pays for you to have access to these databases. So that's a great way to kind of show, when you're talking about academics, when you're talking about those things that parents are kind of wondering, where's all this money going? Is it just going to the rec? You can say, no, it's also going to pay for these databases, which is pretty great. So we have those. And what's really, really awesome, hey guys, can you be quiet? Thank you. What's really awesome is that with the databases, we do have librarians that teach courses on how to use them. So if someone's like, and this is just for your general knowledge as well, but if someone has questions about that, you can always say, and you don't have to learn how to use a database on your own if you've never used one. You can go sit with a librarian and they'll teach you any database you want to know. They'll talk to you about how to type in the search engine and stuff like that. So again, we have a lot of great resources with that. And that kind of transitions into librarians. Like I said, we do have those database research librarians that can kind of help you work the databases, kind of help you find research for a specific topic you're talking about. And then we also have librarians who are staffed within the library, basically from open to close, not completely closed because it closed at 2 a.m. But they are there, and they're there to help you, and they're staffed at that desk on that first floor. So if you're passing like speaker circle and you want to talk about the library, you can say, if you just go up those stairs in the library and right to your right-hand side, you'll see the desk of librarians. They're there to answer all of your questions and help you with anything that you need. So again, they're there for the students. We also have writing tutors in the library. So you guys know those study rooms that you can kind of sometimes rent out from, I don't know the exact dates, but I know it's from 9 to 5 on specific dates. They have writing tutors in the library, and again, you can look on the website for those dates. But you can just kind of go sign your name on the sheet outside the door, or go online to kind of create an appointment with them, or go to the writing center and create an appointment with the writing tutors in the library. So you can sit down and talk with a writing tutor about your paper or anything you're working on. What's up? That is free. That's included. It's kind of like, it's just adjoined with the Writing Center and the Student Success Center. Then we also have Bookmark Cafe. It's not really a resource, but it's there. So that's in the not the basement, like the first level of the library. That's where students can get coffee, snacks, and stuff. Something to keep in mind is that you're technically not supposed to bring food and coffee up into the library unless it's in like a container that's approved or whatever it's called. But Bookmark Cafe is down there. A good way to talk about Bookmark Cafe, the way I like to talk about it, is talking about how it's a really great place to meet professors. It's a really great place to meet like study groups and stuff like that, just to kind of get that more study feel since you're in the library, more academic feel while you guys are there. The stacks are like all the big kind of confusing rooms with all the books and thesauruses and stuff like that. You don't need to mention those on tours, but if anyone asks about the stacks, those are what the stacks are. And then we do have a DigiPrint Center in the library as well. So that I don't know if you guys have seen that room next to admissions while you're walking in that hallway. That's like the library DigiPrint Center. So if you guys have ever been to the DigiPrint Center and the Student Center, it's the exact same thing. So they can do lamination, they can make really big banners for you guys, they can make posters, they can print things in color, all those great stuff. And then speaking of printing, the library is one of the few places on campus where there is a color printer. So if anyone asks about color printing, the library is one of those places. And color printing is 50 cents per sheet compared to the 5 cents for just black and white printing. Cool.
And DigiPrint does color, right?
Yes, DigiPrint does do color. Does color. What's up?
There's another new place that just opened up in the library too, like 2 weeks ago. And it's called the Nook. It's the 4th floor east side.
Good to know.
So that area is no longer a silent study area, and we put in like 40 outlets along the wall, and 4th floor, top floor east side. Yeah. Top floor east side. So not really something to talk about on tour, but it is a great place to go and study. Because everyone always fills up on that bottom level, so you can take a little shortcut.
That is so good to know. Yay. Awesome. Cool. Any questions about resources? Nah? All right, cool. All right, some fun facts about Ellis Library if you guys didn't know. Ellis Library puts on a lot of fun and educational events throughout the school year. So for students, it's all free. You can just go whenever you want. Sometimes they put on dinners that cost like $5, but it's still really fun. So for example, they had a Martin Luther King Jr. dinner where you could learn about like Black History Month and stuff like that, and there was like a little scavenger hunt with it. Happened at like 6 p.m. randomly on, I think, like the 4th floor or something like that. There's also professor speakers that come. So my professor from last year, my human nature professor, Professor Karthik, actually did a whole lecture series in the library a couple of weeks ago. So that's kind of cool. They bring those professors in. They also have a lot of speakers for local schools and stuff. So sometimes they'll walk through the library, or you're, leaving your tour, and they have that main lobby set up with chairs and like the little ropes and stuff like that. That's usually when they're bringing in either a speaker or a school group to kind of educate them on what the school has to offer and certain topics. So fun events, library, cool place. Awesome. And then something you guys should know is that Ellis Library is not the only library on campus. We do have a lot of branch libraries on campus. I can't remember the names of all of them on the top of my head, but they're on that website that I put on there, so definitely go check it out. All right, so that's kind of the end of this slideshow. We're going to go to the team leader panel now, so we're going to switch roles a little bit, so get really, really excited. So I'm going to turn on the lights, and the team leaders, you guys want to bring a chair and kind of just sit up in the front? I'm not that boring.
No, that was 50 minutes. So that's like the end of the class time, so everyone's always dead at the end of 50 minutes.
All right. You guys can sit in a chair if you want. You don't have to stand. No, let's not sit on the tables.
Well, people can see us.
Okay, but it's rolly. Lock the tables if you can. Can you lock the wheels?
Hey guys, it's gonna be weird for everybody to stand up.
Oh
Yeah, you guys are tired.
Come on, stand up. Okay, you're gonna charge your light bulbs. My high school math teacher made me do this. So you're gonna shake your hands like this. Charge your light bulbs. Charge them faster. Keep charging them. Keep charging them. Jump up and down as high as you can 3 times. Good. 4, 2, 3. Okay. All right, good job.
Thank you. All right, so the way way this is gonna go, just to save time and make sure we get through a lot of questions, because we're gonna end this at the 10 to 8. I can't talk. 10 to 8. 10 to 8. So we can go through the study guide. So to make this a little bit more efficient, we're gonna ask questions, and then we're gonna just have 2 of the team leaders respond. I know you guys have all of a lot of things to say, but we're going to let 2 of you guys respond to each question, just to save time. So does anyone have a question to start off with? If not, I can go with some of the ones I have. Yes, go ahead, great.
How do the shorter tours differ? Like ones in the black and gold, they typically like 45 minutes instead of a
Well, I guess the big thing is you have to adjust to not really stopping. I know that a lot of EW trainers, you guys really like to get all of the information in one place as well as you can, and that's really great. But on those, you have to keep moving because they have a lot more parents than you need to get to. And then the route might be backwards as well. So.
Also, I never stop inside the auditorium when I do that. I just hit it all from outside. It's a route, and like sometimes on really big visit days, they have the presentation in an auditorium, so you can be like, oh, remember where you got your presentation? You don't have to take them through. That'll save you a few minutes of walking in the building, walking back out.
Follow someone who does get quickly.
Great.
Sorry.
Others. See, you guys all have a lot to say.
That was a quick answer. That's a good tip.
All right, anyone else have a question? No? Okay, I'll go ahead and go with one of mine. Oh, wait, we have one? Okay, great.
Lindsay, what are the odds? I'm kidding.
I
Okay,
think
so whoever wants to answer your favorite humor injections.
Everything.
The entire thing.
See, that's
Just anytime the group looks like they're starting to get distracted, throw a joke about anything in there, just to like re-engage them. So
Don't make jokes if you're not funny.
Yeah.
Make fun of yourself. Self-deprecating humor.
Self-deprecating humor, right? The wreck, you can make jokes about being beat the entire time in the wreck.
I think the first like sweet jokes is on the quad when you're talking about history, because they just left a presentation where they're kind of sitting in the classroom and then they're excited to get moving and going on tour, but then we start about all the history on the quad and all that stuff. So like I like to use the joke about Jennifer Francis and the 3 nose jobs and all that stuff, and then that kind of wakes them up and all that good stuff, because when they're thrown with like dates and a lot of old history, sometimes that might get boring for them. So.
Joke about that Jerry Shamrock, the one I was on that. Like, oh, I once crossed that. I'm like, no, stay away from that thing.
He's the king of the engineers. He's just
Inspirational. Any other questions? Yeah.
Okay, this is like a weird question, but like, silence is an indication that you're doing bad on your tour, right? Like,
No.
It's just like, how do you handle that? If you like, you've said everything in that space, like especially the space from like Jesse, like that awkward shit. Do I just
space from Jesse to the rack is the
do I just say like ask if you have questions and if you have questions?
You don't have to ask questions. We just recently talked about that presentation that we had. You don't always have to ask if they have questions. It's okay. I always say that. It's okay to turn around and walk forward sometimes. The other day, Lindsay and I actually was having a tour, and we ended up having these great conversations individually with people that we would have never gotten to have if we hadn't like turned around and walked forward for like a few minutes. However, on that stretch, I always talk about the Alumni Association, and I hit on Tiger Walk Senior Send-Off there because they put that on as well as homecoming. So that's like, if you have trouble putting it in early or later, that'll work too. When you're flooding them with so much info, it's good to just give them some periods of silence so they can soak it all in. And then just kind of like feel campus, and then, that sounds weird, but you know what I'm saying. Just be able to like look around and kind of absorb what's going on, and they'll get more out of what you're saying if they have the time to do that.
That big blank stretch between Jesse and Rack, that's a lot of times where I'll talk about Missouri Method, because like you have so many things to talk about on the quad that you can be like, journalism school, we're going to come back to that, and then you work in the journalism school with the Missouri Method and relate it to their individual majors if they have ones that they were interested in.
Great.
So you kind of touched on that. There's kind of, I always feel like, or from what I've been on so far, there's that time between like where the columns end after Lafferty to like when you get to Traditions Plaza, there's not a whole lot going on. What do you talk about in between them? Because there's like 2-minute stretch where I was kind of like.
All right, I start right after the Engineering Shamrock. I start talking about some of the traditions on the quad. So that's where I look. First, I talk about Tiger Walk and Senior Send-Off. And then I look for Tiger Prowl. And then I look across the quad and talk about, the Tombstone and Thomas Jefferson. And when you call Thomas Jefferson TJ, they always laugh at that too. I don't know why. And then, lastly, I don't start talking about Jesse until I'm next to it, or like right by the education program there. Because you can feel so much on the quad.
What do you bring up exactly when you say Jesse? Because I mean, there's a lot in it, but like specifically, like what things you remember?
I talk about all the offices that are in it. I talk about the history behind it, like when it was built. I talk about the dome on top and how you can see it from everywhere in Columbia. And then I tie that back to what I talk about when I'm on 9th Street about how we kind of condensed our campuses. So I talk about how, from the student center, you can get to any corner of campus in 10 minutes. And if you're ever lost, you can just look up and find Jesse. You can see it from pretty much anywhere in Columbia. But I would say that like right when they can't see it, because we're right next to Jesse.
I have a comment about that. I went on a tour with Britt the other day, and she had an awesome way to describe Jesse as the principal's office of the zoo. And that's like, I thought that was awesome, and I'm totally going to use that.
Would anyone appreciate Brendan going through his Jesse Hall spiel? Yeah? Okay, Brendan, do you mind? I don't want to put you on the spot like that. But pretend you're...
Also, Brendan always carries a water bottle to her, if you've ever noticed. All the time.
Gotta stay hydrated. 6 cups a day. Alright, so I don't start talking about it until I'm up next to it. And if you don't know what to talk about in that little space where the path turns diagonal, that's where I like to point out the botanical garden, because it's just like flower haven right there. So that's a great place to point out the botanical garden. And then once I'm up next to Jesse, that's what I say. And then, by the way, also, we already talked about renewing the zoo and renovations. Jesse Hall right here is also being renovated as part of that process. Jesse Hall houses the Chancellor's Office, admissions, financial aid, cashier's office, visitor relations, which is the department we're a part of. Really, if you just walk into the front rotunda, whoever's working will just point in a direction and have every resource at the zoo right there, or every administrative office at the zoo right there. And then that's when I start talking about the building itself. And I say, so Jesse actually replaced Academic Hall. It was built in 1895. The dome on top is 105 feet, so it's taller than the building itself. And that dome you can see from everywhere across Columbia. So you can be on East Campus, which is a residential neighborhood where a lot of students rent houses once they're upperclassmen, or downtown, or really anywhere across campus. And you can see that bright white dome shining across everything. It also changes colors twice a year. Once is for homecoming when they light up bright gold, and then the other time is for engineering week when they light up bright green. And then by that point, you're like, you've already made the turn, gone diagonal, and you're like almost to the road, almost to common.
Yeah,
Perfect.
and then that's a good time to bring up Jesse Auditorium and talk about some of the events that are in there and how it's big enough that you'll never have class.
Awesome. All right, what's up?
I was shadowing to her, and I don't know if it's like common or maybe just the person I'm shadowing, but they call Jesse Dome the North Star.
I call it a lot of people.
I think that's really good.
It's very good.
Good tidbit.
That's good.
And you're good.
In the auditorium, so who's performed there? Bill Nye, like who do you guys mention?
I kind of tie it into like, it could be anywhere, because like a lot of those people, like if you say Jen Goodall, she wasn't there, but I just say like either at that place or other places on campus. So I talk about Fun and Passion Dragons, and then Passion Pit was there, things like that. But if you just kind of talk about concerts in general, it's easier to generalize than go specific. But at least that's right.
If you want to be specific, just some names, like Amelia Earhart spoke there, Maya Angelou spoke there, and like, I think
Bill Nye spoke there.
Bill Nye spoke there, I think like Ray Charles had a concert.
If you have a
Bill
lot of guys
Cosby.
on tour, I always throw in the main Navy SEAL from the movie Act of Valor spoke there. If it's all girls on tour, don't do it because they all look at you like you're dumb. But a lot of guys have seen that movie and think it's awesome. And so, Act of Valor, one with the real Navy SEALs, the guy's a 20-year SEAL vet, and it's crazy stories.
Yeah.
So what concerts did you guys mention some? What did you say? Concerts.
Oh, I roll through a whole routine there of things that I've been through. And
I say I went to Fun, and it was really fun.
I always preference it like, let's see if I can remember all these to make it seem like it's not scripted. I did a lot. Let's see, Fun, Kendrick Lamar, Jason Aldean, Luke Bryan, Florida Georgia Line.
That was it.
Let's see.
Passion Dragons. That's cool.
I can look for one.
And then I say we also have a lot of plays there, like we also have a lot of plays there, like Stomp, Mamma Mia, Blue Man Group,
And then a whole bunch of different comedians that perform there as well. I've seen like 8 different comedians.
And I'll go ahead and I'll try to find a list for you guys. There is one, I just have to look for it, so. Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
So how do you like keep students on your tour like engaged in what you're saying and like actively participate in levels without just saying like 4 times in your tour? Do you have any questions?
If I'm passing it's always a must-have on tour to have them introduce themselves and say what their major is. So then when you're moving, like you're gonna be kind of surprised with how much you remember that throughout your tour, because then when you're passing whatever respected academic unit it is, then you'll be like, oh, so for you, like this would be your example for the Missouri method, and then like if you're not necessarily by the business school, you'd still go through the group and explain to them what that would be like for them. And then also, I really plug in involvement when I'm by the CSI, and I really like to be like, so there's so many things to do on campus, over 700 orgs. So what are some things that you guys do right now, or like what are things that you could see yourself doing in college? Because it's a big thing to, not so much, like people love to talk about themselves, so it's really good to have them communicate with that with you, but then it's like the next step, like really making that connection is like, I'm talking about myself, but then I'm talking about myself and like visualizing myself here, and then that also makes a big difference. So those are 2 of my big examples.
What are some adjustments you guys make depending on whether it's a small tour, a big tour, like an alumni tour, or a tour that they don't?
When it's this, for me, like I love small tours, and when it is a small tour, I think that's when you really have to like cater it a little bit more, because like big tours you can still do the general thing, you just might not get as like in depth, I guess, with those people. But when it's small tours, like you're gonna have to interact with them. So I guess if it's less than like 5 people, or I guess 3 or 4 people, I usually don't walk backwards. That's a big adjustment. It's so awful. If there's like 2 people and you're walking backwards, and it's just like, so gauge the group on that. But like really ask questions. Like, what do you want to see? What are you interested in? What other schools have you been looking at? Be like as open as possible with them, or like what are issues that you see with this campus. Like the smaller tours are great, in my opinion, because you can really, really get down to the nitty-gritty with them, and you're gonna like feel like you made an impact at the end. So to ask those hard questions, and hopefully they'll get them answered pretty easily.
And with the other side of that question, with the different people on tour, so transfer students who are older transfer students, graduate students, alumni, you obviously don't show them a residential hall. But some ask to do that. So still say that we have a residential hall open if you would like to see it. Because some are like, I want to be a junior in a residential hall, and that's fine. And then, let's see, alumni whole stories out of them. Again, people love talking about themselves, and it's also really cool to hear all their stories. So when you get to the shack, ask them about the old shack. When, I don't know, you're talking about different points on campus, pull the stories out of them, pull the homecoming experience out of them, all those different things, because they love talking about themselves.
When you get like a bigger tour group, do you think it's like important to like look into where other people are like in front, and like what locations do you think?
I don't know.
Brendan does this really well.
I do that a lot.
Because I only found like one, like by the pump room, that little like stretch where you can go check it out. I like pulled it in there and then I walked back through. But that's like the only one I found where it's like kind of natural.
I do it like probably 5 or 6 different times. The first, so we get done talking about Lottery Hall and everything on it. You get over to 9th Street, and you walk like straight towards 9th Street, and then you take a 90-degree turn. So you like walk through the group over to the other side, and then people who are on the side of the group are now in front. And then the best one is Engineering Shamrock. You bring them all over by the Engineering Shamrock, and then walk all the way through the group so that who's the people in the back and now in front. Let's see, the Academic Hall. Arts and Science is another great spot to do that. And then the Student Center. A lot of times I do it, like I'll pull them to the side and then cut back to the route and get the other side of the route.
Every time I stop, I feel like I do it. So like if you ever make stop and like you touch like key points or whatever, that's when you walk through.
I try to do that, but at the same time, people that want to be at the back of the line are going to go back of the line. And so, you know, if you shake it up within 100 yards, they're going to be back where they started. So not a huge deal if you don't do it.
Or if you're someone like on the phone, notoriously, you don't want to anyway, so. There's always the dad that's driving in the back, or that's on the phone the whole time, you're like, yeah, that's question.
Yeah, how do you guys describe the shack? Or like, old shack, I guess?
It was a trailer.
Well, yeah, it was a trailer and then they like built one around it. And when I get into the student center, first thing I like to do is including like where they have been already. So I say like, so did you guys park in Turner Avenue Garage? Yes, well then right across the street was Reynolds Alumni Center. That's where the shack originally stood. It was really close to campus, as you can see. Then you say like, it was a trailer that evolved
Did it
into.
have food though?
Yeah, it was essentially a bar.
It has the same recipes as the current shack.
My question was, do you say bar? Like it was a
You can
bar?
say that.
You can say that.
bar.
I mean, you can say we're now a dry campus if
Right,
you want to
like,
like call that
yeah,
out.
because I mean, I do that a lot, and then like, I always say that it's Sparks and Buzz, and then like, if someone's very adamant about knowing whether our campus is dry, then we can say yes.
See, that's how I bring up that the dry campus. I said that was a beer and burger joint, and now it's just a burger joint because we're a dry campus.
Were you just asking about like the history of it, or? what?
Yeah, is that what you guys got?
Okay.
Mizzou bought the shack in '88 and it also burned down in '88, is that correct?
I don't know when it was.
No, it was.
Just say that it's burned. It was Halloween night, 1980. Burned
Yeah.
down Halloween night, 1980.
We did not buy it in '88. It was a couple years before that, and I can get the history on the shack for you guys. I actually have the link in my archive page, so I'll just go ahead and send that to you all, so you have it.
Really go in that much detail.
No, I just thought it'd be fun. I told them, I honestly spit some false info down a little bit, but no worries, now I know.
Nice, great question.
Great,
Yeah, killing it.
So senior send off, now that you can't, like, we don't give beer away, like, when you say like the senior send off, it's just like.
It takes a lot of restraint.
It's
I
like-
still come out, I'm not gonna lie. But just be like, it's a really cool experience because you're beginning and ending your Mizzou experience right in the same place. It's the last thing you're gonna experience before you graduate, unless you come back for homecoming, so that's really cool. And then just say that there's like a lunch spread because
It's a cool tradition no matter without the beer. So just like pretend the beer was never there.
and they're not gonna know the beer's up there
Somebody-
unless there's an annoying.
I think Morgan's hand is next.
It's a nice umbrella. I saw your picture.
Yeah, it's great.
Agreed.
It was Women's Center.
Right. Question about health sciences, still very, very confused on how to incorporate that into the course since it's not seen, it's not visible.
Wait, like,
Just like how to
the
talk
school.
about health sciences, there's like
Some people who are health scientists?
Yeah, I just want to be able to like kind of comment.
Well, I'll tell you. So the main offices are Lewis and Clark Hall, which are right directly down Rollins, almost at the intersection of Providence and Rollins. So it's very far away. So that's where you're going to be direct. So like, if they have an academic appointment that's kind of soon and that's where they're going, don't direct them to lunch and then give them 10 minutes to eat and then have to walk all the way back because they can go to a closer dining hall for that. But basically, we offer a lot of clinical programs where like you'll start out as a health science student and then you'll apply to your program like your sophomore, junior, senior year. And then if we don't offer them in Mizzou, they're offered at a lot of other like University of Missouri System campuses. But we don't do that detail. But the Missouri method aspect for health sciences is that you do your clinicals as a part of your curriculum, and it's not something that you're doing that you have to like seek out yourself. They're already set up as a part of your major. So like nursing is a good example. Like you're pre-nursing for 2 years, then once you're admitted, you're just basically in like a couple classes, but then constant clinical rotations. It's the same for PT, but you apply as a senior. There's a direct entry scholarship for a lot of programs called the Sharp Scholarship. Health sciences is dope.
And you talk about that like on Rollins, and you say right down this road.
Yes.
That's what we do.
And just to add on to that, we mentioned pre-med. Any pre-professional majors, they get advising through the Honors College. If you guys did not know, they will have their own, like if they're biology, they will get advising through arts and science, but then they will also get that pre-professional advising through the Honors College.
Because a lot of people who are pre-med assume that they're a health science student, but then you guys, I'm sure, have all realized that pre-med is not a major, it is a goal. So you can kind of like set up that distinction because some people get really confused. I think.
Just going back to senior send-off, I didn't hear this until I showed Jordan's class, and she talked about that they have a giant map of Jesse where you put a pin to signify like where you're going. Is that?
Yeah, they do it at the actual event. It's really cool. They put this like big rolling board up and you go and put a pin where you're going, but it's not like kept anywhere. Like they do a new one every year and I don't know where it goes. So it's not in Jesse, but it does exist. So you can like put a pin there. And I think they're starting to try and do that from like the other side too, like where you came from all over the country. So yeah.
Another awkward place is walking down 9th. So like once you're off Lowry and you're like Student Success Center, Memorial, Lowry, blah blah blah.
That's where I have them introduce themselves.
Lindsay.
Girl.
Downtown.
Talk about downtown.
I talk about downtown like getting to that intersection because you can like say like we're coming up, look at Domino's and the Bird, and then you can go to the transfer residence, but like, today, Charlie and I were like, this is 1/3 of Swallow Hall.
Yeah, you can talk about Army there though. Yeah, that's talk about Army if you know enough about it. But, I sometimes think, well, since our tour route has changed since I got hired, I realized that I was taking way too much time on Lowry because we want to talk about White Campus and everything about Memorial and Student Success Center and the library, yada yada yada. So then on top of it, you have a big group and you all have them introduce themselves. They're awkward, so they're really slow and like hokey at introducing themselves, and then that adds like 5-10 minutes. So that's why I changed it, and I kind of get going, and then once we're moving on, have them introduce themselves. So,
I talk about the size of the zoo there, because a lot of families are freaked out that the zoo's like this giant place that covers all of Columbia. So reassuring them that, you know, it's, the corner campus is built into downtown, and students are anywhere just 5 to 10 minutes, and different things like that. You're like, oh, okay. And then when you look back around by Speaker Circle, you're like, that's where we started. That's how small this campus is. We've actually just done Circle. Like, oh, it is.
All right. What other questions?
A place I love is like C that I think is kind of awkward, but it's like everyone I've chatted with said this is where they talk about transportation, but then I forget everything that they say when you walk out the student center, out the west end, and you cross the street before you get to like, you're like too far to talk about Steakhouse, but it's like you're not buying anything.
I always talk about the CSI up there because there's so much to talk about with that because you can talk about Greek Live. I do a huge plugs for Alternative Breaks because I think that's a really, really big program and people love to hear that we're sending thousands of kids across the country. And so I'll do a big plug on that and how you're going to make a bunch of friends, and how involvement is super important at Mizzou and it really shrinks down the school.
Point out if they, that's a good time to say, is anyone interested in Greek Life? Greek Town's actually that way, or like whatever you want to call it, or like that's where Greek chapters are located. But that's cool because a lot of people will ask that question later. If they're not interested, obviously you don't have to plug it there. But if they are, then I like the numbers that you know. That's a good time to plug those.
Don't talk about stuff that they're not interested in.
Yeah, like if they're not interested. But
Do you have a question about transportation now? Or do you have one?
That's just people they like talk about depending on the tour time, like it's right there is like the thing that's like this road is closed from like 8:15 to 3:45.
Or like the buses are right there and they say like, yeah, so they're right here.
Also, main tour route is going through the student center and hopefully bookstore. I know last hire class likes to cut out every single time in that west end, but try to go through the student center.
At least if you really don't want to go to the Mizzou store, like if you're at a later tour and you're going to drop them off there anyway, you should still cut across, talk about easy charts possibly and like the campus dining locations. Also talk about the resources underneath the student center inside or outside, but along that stretch and then cut out. Yeah. Hunter. Sorry, Hunter.
Do you guys ever talk about Tiger Plaza?
I do.
That's a really aspect where you go away
I do. I tried it with my homecoming HBO. Dedicated homecoming.
Is there no, I don't know, there's not much stage.
You,
Tiger Plaza.
you could talk about that also in that awkward stretch in front of Jesse.
I always talk about Tiger Plaza when it's like an alumni tour and we're on a golf cart and we have to drive through it, and then I normally stop there for
Okay, let's do one more question. Or 2 more questions.
Jim had his hand up first.
Sorry.
So, you mentioned earlier, like, if someone's not interested in Greek life, don't mention it. To figure out if people are interested in Greek life, you just ask.
Oh, well, I didn't mean like don't mention it at all. Like you can absolutely ask, but then if it's like crickets, don't just be like, yeah, well, it's 25% of our student body. Because then they're going to be like, what? So don't do that. That's what I was getting at, sorry.
Okay. Cool. Oh, I wondered what you talked about between the program and the plaza.
Haha. Campus safety, real plans. I talked about parking and the avenue, talk about that, campus safety, and I always like do the Raven, why I chose to do my personal connection to it, community aspect. I like to do like a punch at the end, so you gotta like, bring them in with something. Get a little MIC. Yeah, they never respond.
All those and also research. Being a tier 1 research university, and that every professor here has to be doing research, which means you're learning from. Sorry, chill. Which means you're learning from cutting edge professors and people that are leading in their field, and that you can get paid to do research for.
With them, not for them, with them.
But then that is a good time to plug campus safety because because you're about to, if you're going to Plaza regardless or Rollins, you're about to pass a blue light tower, and then you're also passing Badge, which has a UED in it. So it's all about that, like, being close to it, talking about it. You're not going to talk about it if it's this obscure, vague topic. It's
And
really
how
good.
well the campus is, because it's just a row of
Yeah.
lights right next to it.
Don't call it Vantage.
It's Vax now, they changed the size.
Oh, can I have like one quick last one?
One, you can finish off the entire group.
Yes. Okay, so at the very end is like literally I get really uncomfortable because like, do you take them to like Plaza right away? Do you kind of like finish off out of the program and be like, do you guys have any appointments? Because like today everyone was like, gotta go by, and we're like,
Yeah, ask if they like are rushing somewhere, or maybe like they're not eating lunch with you. It could be like meeting a friend downtown, or something like that. So I stop right there.
So you stop.
Like I said, like if you're about to take them to Plaza and they have an appointment at the school called breakfast, they're gonna be so mad at you. So yeah.
so stop.
Stop
And
asking.
be like,
Yes,
and then if they are coming to Plaza, do you be like,
That's not a question.
you can't?
We'll just wait till after.
I'm always just like, I'm open for questions. If you want to, if you have an extended question, I'll be in there. If you want me to sit with you, I totally can. If not, I'll just do other tour guides. And if they're interested in it, they'll wait for you and pull you in. I've gotten that at least. So.
Or I say, like on the smaller tours, I'll say, I'll be sitting at a giant round table by myself, feel free to do that. And the moms all come and sit there.
All right, Brendan. Okay. And with that, we're going to wrap it up. Thank you guys so much for helping out. I appreciate it. They appreciate it. All right. Cool. So I hope that helped you guys get some of those little kinks out of your guys' tour, get some nerves, get rid of some of those nerves as well. If you guys have any questions, please email them to the internal. I'm not doing anything for spring break. I'm literally sitting on my butt watching TV. Or reading books, maybe I'll be intellectual and stuff. So feel free to, I'll have the email up constantly. So if you guys have a last minute question, concern, email it in and I will definitely respond to it probably right away unless I'm sleeping. So with that being said, we're going to kind of switch gears now. Tucker's going to go over a couple of shift stuff, and then after that we're going to go over the study guide, okay? Awesome.
Hello. Very quickly. One, I'm going to post the shifts at I'll probably right after this meeting, so go snatch those up for the week after spring break. With that, if you've taken your evaluation, I'm not going to switch you over to being a tour guide on shift planning until after the test. So if you want to give tours that week, that's cool. Just pick up those individual shifts as well, and you can give some tours if you want. Fair warning, if someone needs to do it like an eval or needs to get an individual, I will kick you off of that tour to give them their spot. But if there's extra spots, you can take those and get some hours in, practice a little more. So that's all.
Okay, awesome. So like I said, we're going to quickly go over the study guide. Did everyone print it out if they wanted to? I gave that option. If you want to have a hard copy, I did print out a couple up here. So do you guys have it with you? Do you guys need a copy? Do you guys want to pull out your computers and look at it? You can do that. Go ahead and do that. It's 2 pages, so just take. Yeah, we can I don't know. You guys just 2 pages. And if you guys want, again, you can pull out your computers and open it on your email, yada, yada, yada. Okay, and while you guys are doing that, Morgan just asked about the breakfast. So if you guys have questions about the breakfast, I'm going to go ahead and go over that while you get getting your stuff out. The breakfast is on April 2nd. You guys should have all gotten an email from the University Club with an invitation. If you are coming, you need to RSVP yes. If you are not coming, you need to RSVP no. Either way, you do have to email them, and you have to email them by March 26th. So either email yes or no. You can't just not respond if you're coming or not. At that breakfast, if you can come for 30 minutes, that's great. If you can come for the whole time, that's great as well. You guys will be getting, if you have passed your eval and your test by that point, you will be getting your certificate from the chancellor for being an ambassador of the university. So that's exciting. That's some prompt to get you guys to get your evals done in time and studying for the test, because you do need to pass your test to get that certificate. But yeah, does that answer your question about the breakfast? And it's business casual, black and gold. We do take a group picture, so look your best. What's up? Okay, yeah, business casual, black and gold. Yeah.
When do our those swing portraits that we get?
Yeah.
When do those go up?
Emily's actually working on that, and you can talk to Emily after. And if you want to get your picture, I'm sure she could work on a way of sending it to you as well. Okay, all right, so study guide time, woohoo! So I'm just going to quickly go over this study guide, and then after, if you guys have any questions, let me know. So basically, on this test, what's going to happen is it's going to be sorted into these 5 groups that you see on the study guide. So we have history and facts, student life, traditions and legends, academics, and campus culture. When you come to the test, bring your writing hand and a writing utensil, maybe a couple of writing utensils, because there is going to be a fair amount of writing. However, I'm not going to ask you to write paragraphs. The most you'll ever write is 2 to 3 sentences if there is a writing question, and it's usually you can answer between 1 and 3 sentences, if that makes sense. So you will be writing, and there will be multiple choice, and there will be true-false. Those are the 3 types of questions you will see. There are like 3 fill-in-the-blank questions, but they're really, really simple, so you guys should be able to get those right away. For history and facts, basically the Ryan Gavin lecture that's on shift planning, if you guys just want to review that, that'll give you almost every single answer you will need for the history and facts section of the test. The only thing you won't find on there, you might actually find some of them on there, but there is I think 1 alumni question that you can only find on the timeline that I listed on there. So make sure you go over that, make sure you look over those things. And again, 1 question isn't going to make or break you, but just do keep that in mind that most of the stuff that you can find that are on the history and facts are going to be in that history lecture or within anything that we talked about today / within the past training dates. Okay, student life. So student life, this one's pretty easy. Most of the stuff you should have picked up on your tours. It's stuff that all the tour guides talk about. So the resources in the Student Center, the Gaines Old and Black Culture Center, all of those things. If you guys have any questions about those, I made this really easy for you guys, the study guide. Literally, these links will take you to the page where you'll find the answer for the question. Does that make sense? So you don't have to like dig through the website or anything like that. You literally just have to click on the link and like review that page. And if you want to explore more to make your questions have more detail, you can. But the answers that I'm looking for are right there. And the only thing that you may not have a lot of knowledge on are the free events on campus. But like I said, I'm going to send that list of events that happen on campus to you guys. But I'm sure you guys could list them off already. I mean, what's one of them? Top of your head? Tiger Walk, it's a free event on campus for freshmen. The free movies on Wednesdays, stuff like that. Traditions and legends, also stuff that you guys should have picked up on tour. If you guys don't know any of the things that are on there, again, the links will take you directly to the page that has the answers. So again, making it as simple as possible for you guys. Academics, I am going to actually put this on shift planning because there is something that we haven't gone over, and that is the academic departments and where they're located. But I am literally, one of the links actually has a link to where all the academic departments are located. But I'm going to go ahead and put a sheet up for you so you don't have to do all that digging. But that will be on shift planning, if not tonight, by Friday. So do keep that in mind, I will have that on there. But again, same thing, you will have, if you just click on the links, they'll take you to the answers that you need, and most of the stuff we have either covered in here or you should have picked up on your tour. Campus culture, this is, I think, is going to be a little bit of the harder section. The MU police one, I hope that the tour guides that you guys have shadowed and tagged have talked about them. If not, there's only a couple questions on it, so don't worry too much, but I do have the website on there. But it's just the basics of MU police, like what they are and what they can do for students. And again, the Chancellor Diversity Initiative we talked about today. ROAR, does everyone know what ROAR is? Residential Online Access to Rooms. If you guys don't know, the link will take you to the video for ROAR, so you can just click that and watch the video. And then dining plans, again, there's a video. You can click that link, it'll take you to the video if you don't know that. And then something else, a lot of people forget about this, you need to know all of the office rules for the Office of Visitor Relations. So everything in the binder. Wow, that's what you guys got on. You guys have had 6 weeks to look over them, so hopefully you don't have to study much in the binders, but you will have questions on, certain things like what is a strike, what is reality check, what happens if you get a strike, what happens if you get a reality check, stuff like that. So keep those things in mind as well. Okay, and then before questions, I'm going to quickly talk about how to pass your test. So the leadership team talked about this with Leanne, and you guys are going to have to pass each section by a certain percentage. Usually it's 80%, and that's It's usually between 75 and 80%. I'm going to look at the number of questions I have this weekend and give you guys a final number in next week's email. But you do have to pass each section with that percentage to pass the entire test. And the reason we do that is you could pass this test with completely botching one section. Does that make sense? And it doesn't make sense for you guys not to know about academics or not to know about history, because those are big parts of the tour. So again, passing each section is very important for you to pass the test. All right, question. Yes?
If we don't pass the test, what happens?
Then you give me a couple of days. So you say, okay, 4 days I'm going to take the test. And then we come up with a time and you retake it. After the second time, if you really don't pass the test, because it's the same test, then we have trouble. So then we probably need to talk about other things. But what's up? Again, I will send that out to you. Right now, I have, I think, close to 20 per section. There are no. If there is a question where a lot of you guys get it wrong, I will say that's probably on me, and I will mark that toward in favor of you guys, because I don't think that's fair. If the majority of you guys get it wrong, that's not your fault. So it's something that I didn't contribute, that I didn't do properly. So. You don't need a Scantron. If you want to bring scratch paper, you can, but you're writing on the test, so yeah. Also, if you have terrible handwriting, and I cannot read your handwriting, I don't know what to say, because please just have good handwriting, because I struggle reading already. So have your phone on you, because I might text you that night and be like, what does this mean? Great. It's multiple choice, short answer, true, false, and like 3 fill-in-the-blanks. Any other questions? Okay, guys, you guys are going to do so great. Like I said, I'm going to be on my computer doing nothing all of spring break. So if you have questions, let me know. Look this over. Have a great spring break and study hard for your midterms.